Hurricane Beryl brushed the south coast of Jamaica today as a Category 4 hurricane, now headed to pass just south of the Cayman Islands and then on to the Yucatan Peninsula and then on to the southwest Gulf, where it either will wind up in northeast Mexico or somewhere along the south coast of Texas. We'll explore all the possibilities. And of course, we are going into the 4th of July holiday weekend. It's a long holiday weekend that's going to have heat, humidity, and the risk for thunderstorms along the way. We'll talk about that as well and speculate on all sorts of other things tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Weather system is yours and you will join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. I'm part of that network. The link is on the description to this podcast. If you purchase the weather station or maybe one of the other electronic gadgets and gizmos that they have, even smart weather fashion. But if you do decide to buy something, there's a coupon code you should know about, and that coupon code is
Summer 2024.
And if you use it, you will get
10% off. Wow.
I've now given you an extra line.
I'm,
your agent was very hard in the negotiations about that extra line.
Yeah. Well, I'm here and you're there, and why not?
And why not? So I think it's probably pretty well understood that Beryl is going to the name Beryl is going to be retired. I mean, there are just too many records that this storm has set. Earliest this, strongest that, first one in June, earliest Cat 5 in July, Cat 5, and on and on and on it goes. So now we're seeing it impact landfall. We talked about the fact that last night, in spite of all the shear, Joe, the the core the core was very well developed, and the shear has not really taken a big toll on the core. Yeah, it's come off the peaks and all, and the pressure has come up some 20 millibar, almost 25 millibars, but it's still a formidable storm. And next stop, the Cayman Islands, and then the stop right after that is going to be the Yucatan Peninsula.
Right, and interestingly, much of Mexico is very mountainous and very rugged, but as far as the Yucatan Peninsula is concerned, there's not very much in the way of mountainous terrain there. So the storm will obviously lose some of its punch as it passes over the Yucatan on Friday, but it will not get ripped or torn to shreds if it were, for example, passing over the Dominican Republic or Haiti or Hispaniola. So don't expect all that much in terms of diminishing of strength, and it could very well, once it gets its feet wet again in the Gulf of Mexico, it could start revving up. And I know the folks who live in southern Texas, especially around the Brownsville area of Texas, are really looking with very intense, note as to what this is going to do as we move into the latter part of the weekend, as this storm system takes the curve, the northwesterly curve, up in the direction of the Mexico-Texas border.
That upper ridge that I'm sitting under, unfortunately, and I say that if only because of the fact that we've had, I think for the whole month of June, we only had about 2 inches of rain, and most of that came on one day. And I don't think I've seen it hasn't. I think it's only rained here once in the last 2 weeks, and everything is just like cement and bone dry. So I kind of wish the pattern would change a little bit. But that ridge is going to have a weakness that's going to develop right along the Texas coast and extending northward from a deep trough that's going to be setting up probably around between 95 and 100 west. So if the storm exploits that weakness, it come further north. And, we've been seeing the spread in the model guidance in the last day or two get wider in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's I think there's certainly enough uncertainty here that we need to pay a little attention to this.
I think so. Yeah, it'll be interesting again in the coming days how the jet stream sets up relative to the movement of Beryl. And it seems that even though it has interacted with Jamaica, I mean, the storm system still shows indications of strengthening. Land friction helps organize the core as well. And I was looking at lightning strikes, Joe, and right around the immediate north side of the eye, there must be hundreds of lightning strikes occurring. Quite a lightning display if you're on the south coast of Jamaica today. And again, that storm system now, after grazing southern Jamaica, now moving back out over the ocean. Next stop, the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, Hurricane Center commented to one of the discussions today how, in spite of the shear, it looked like it actually or it looked a little better organized during the late afternoon. And there's a reconnaissance aircraft there right now, so we'll check to see what it's found. Actually, I believe there are two reconnaissance aircrafts that are there, and we're seeing. First of all, the center is now southwest of offshore and southwest of Jamaica. It's on its, it's already made its pass. 961 millibars. It's sort of leveled off there earlier today, and it's been kind of sitting around 960, 961, and that's the first fix. And just looking at the wind barbs, I'm seeing a lot of 96 to 113 knots, and a couple under the 961. There's that salmon pinkish color that's 113 to 137. So there's probably still a belt of winds at the surface that are up there at about 120, 125, maybe 130. But it's definitely come off that 165 that we saw. And we could check out uh, the graphic plot. You can see the pressure there just above 960, 115 knots on the wind. That's flight level. And on the SFMR, we've got winds that got up to about 105 knots. And the there's like a gap in here too. I don't know why the recent recons have been showing these gaps. Maybe it has to do with the fact that the center was partially over land when they were in it. I'm going to see what the other plane has because there's two missions. So that was mission 16. So now I'm going to 17, which it's not switching to. So I'll have to do it I'll have to go a different route. All right, come on. There we go. All right, so mission 17 is there's not really a lot of information here on mission 17. It's coming in from the southeast. So still early, and we'll see, what they do with this at 8 o'clock. And on the 5 p.m. advisory, 17.5 north, 77.6 west. And they were carrying on the advisory a top wind of 140 miles per hour. The hurricane, I saw the few just with the hurricane warning still up for Jamaica, Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac. The coast of the Yucatan Peninsula from Puerto Costa Maya to Cancun. Cancun is a place that a lot of people go to. A hurricane watch is up from south of Costa Maya to Chetumal, and the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, north of Cancun to Cabo Catoche, Catoche, also under tropical storm watches. Tropical storm watches are up for Belize, the coast of Belize, from south of Chetumal to Belize City, and the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, west of Cabo Catoche to Campeche. So on the other side, on the northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula, we have a tropical storm watch. So they're busy, Joe. Got to cover both sides of this, and it's still moving west northwest at 20. That's one thing that's been very consistent here through all of this is that its forward motion has been sitting around 20 miles an hour, a little faster in some advisories, a little slower in others, but basically averaging 20 miles an hour, and it just keeps right on going.
The forward speed needs to be inputted into the actual circulation of the storm. That adds to the potential damage that this system may cause because, again, you just pointed out, Joe, it's moving at a pretty good clip. I mean, normally you see hurricanes meander, so to speak, 5, 10, 15 miles an hour. But when you start seeing them pick up in intensity at, 20 or 25 mile per hour or more, that forward speed, and we've seen that with other storms. Wilma, for example, was more dangerous because it was moving very rapidly, going way back to the 38 hurricane, which was coming up the eastern seaboard at like 40 miles per hour. Fast moving tropical cyclones can do more damage than what their category number would indicate. They again, especially if you're right at the front end of the approaching storm, you really get really higher storm surges. You get much higher sustained winds. And this storm, as if enough of it already was not already terrible with the category, up at 4 and 5 or whatever. The movement, again, the forward speed is something else altogether. And usually, when you see storms that strong, they don't move as quickly as this. But this one seems to be, making up new rules as time wears on.
Yep. And Tyler Finger, yes, if you're in the case of the 38 hurricane, for example, if you were on the west side, you got less wind. You got more rain, but you got less wind. Uh, because the motion going from south to north, your momentum is fighting against the winds which are coming from north to south. So your winds are going to be a little lower on the west side and higher on the east side when they come, certainly when they come up at this latitude. And then the other thing that happens is that the rain field switches, and you get the heavier rain on the west side and lighter rain on the east side most of the
Absolutely.
time. Most of the time.
And we saw a somewhat reduced version of that with Gloria in 1985. That storm system, again, pretty much hitting approximately in the same spot that the hurricane of 38 did, although it was not moving quite as fast and it was not as potent as the 38 hurricane. But New York City, for example, I remember Mayor Ed Koch commenting in the aftermath of the passage of the storm Gloria through central Long Island. He was making up stories like, well, we scared the life out of the hurricane because all New York got was some gusty winds and heavy rain. Of course, people on the right hand side of the path of the storm, Gloria, in central and eastern Long Island, really got hammered. That's where they saw the worst of it in terms of heavy winds. So the worst place to be in a tropical cyclone situation is again to the right of the path of the storm. And again, that's what happened in 38 and what happened again in 85 with Gloria. The people who were on the right side got the worst of it.
Yeah, I switched over to the goes uh, with the lightning strikes because you did mention it before, and actually there's still quite a bit of lightning strikes going on. One patch sitting right around the center. There looks like there was a burst of thunderstorms in the last 2 hours, and then there's some kind of band that's out to the east of that where you're seeing a lot of lightning strikes from that. So, and it's I think it's a little less ragged looking than it was earlier today. A little less.
Yeah, and that's again, when you have any kind of interaction with land, you would tend to see the storm lose a little bit of its punch and look a little bit more ragged. But now the storm is moving away from Jamaica and now is starting to put itself back together again. And yeah, a little bit less ragged indeed, as opposed to what it looked like, let's say, 12 or 18 hours ago.
So the model track guidance, which is tightly clustered until it goes over the Yucatan Peninsula, it's probably a spread of about 60 miles or so from the northernmost to the southernmost, but you can see what happens once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. You got more of the models turning it northwestward and bringing it into the South Texas coast, somewhere between Brownsville and Corpus Christi. But there's still a couple more. There are still other models that have it further south, going inland south of Brownsville by about maybe 60 or 70 miles. So it's going to be it's fairly close here as far as whether it makes causes a problem. What might happen is if it goes into northeast Mexico, depending on whether it's a tropical storm or if it does re-strengthen back into a hurricane, the thing that's going to be a little tricky here, Joe, is probably how far north does the heavy rain shield get? Because if it, I would tend to think if it stayed more of a tropical storm, you'd probably see the rain get further north, in along the Texas coast. But if it tightens up and re-strengthens into a minimal hurricane, or maybe a little bit more than a minimal hurricane, it might pull that rain, that northern fringe of that rain gets pulled further south.
Right, right. I agree. I agree 100%, Joe.
And the intensity models, you got some that take it down to a Cat 2, Cat 1, and then kind of leave it there. Uh, the vast majority of them take it down to a tropical storm. Now, this during the period of 48 to 60 to 72 hours, and that would be the time frame that it's over the Yucatan Peninsula, where it weakens to a tropical storm with winds of to 50. And then a few of the models actually start to strengthen it back toward borderline Cat 1 before it goes inland again, either in Mexico, northeast Mexico, or South Texas. And then, of course, then after that, you get the steady weakening. So there's a lot to chew through here as far as uh, the forecast is concerned. And I want to just kind of take a look. Let's go back to just to look at the model guidance. I'm going to use the Western Atlantic view here so that we could get a feel for the shear and everything else and the steering. So if we look at the shear, that's the wrong map. Sorry about that. Uh, that's the right map. So uh, you've got all through the Northwest Caribbean. So here's where the hurricane is this evening. Okay, um, just southwest of Jamaica, all through the to the west of it, we have fairly strong southwest winds aloft. So the shear is there. Now that shear zone is tending to retreat a bit as the storm moves westward toward the Yucatan Peninsula. Then it crosses, and when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, the shear is less. It's not completely gone, but it is less. So this would possibly argue for a potential re-strengthening. I don't think it's going to re-strengthen anywhere close to what it is now or what it was, certainly what it was yesterday. But it could possibly re-strengthen. And you can see the GFS actually brings the center inland just south of Brownsville and then drags it northwestward into South Texas. And there's a follow-up system on the loop, the disturbed weather that's moving another area of disturbed weather moving over the Windward Islands. Uh, just kind of trying to check to see how the upper air winds. And this is from a couple of days ago. It's hard to find uh, the second one. It's that area of, I guess, of light wind shear that moves into the Eastern Caribbean, but then just sort of gets swallowed up because you still have strong northwest winds going on in the Central and Western Caribbean behind it. The models are, the GFS earlier today was trying to take that second system and bring it into the Southwest Gulf and develop it early next week, and that may still happen. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how it plays. Meanwhile, while all that's going on, everybody got to enjoy one last day before the steam bath arrives in the northeastern mid-Atlantic states.
Yeah, the buildup of humidity will be certainly felt, I think, especially later tonight. I mean, here in Putnam Valley, we had two very comfortable sleeping nights with readings in the high 50s, 59 yesterday morning, 58 this morning. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be somewhere in the mid to upper 60s, and with dew point temperatures notably higher, it will be certainly more uncomfortable. And then tomorrow, the stage is going to be set for the threat of showers. Maybe not so much in the morning, but by the afternoon, I was telling Renata this, Joe, between 2 and 8 o'clock tomorrow, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m., I'm pretty confident that there are going to be areas of scattered showers, some shower activity that we may see later tomorrow could be locally heavy. I'm not talking about severe, but we could be looking at spots that, in an hour picking up anywhere from like a half to three quarters or even an inch of rain if you're unfortunate to be in their path. And as far as the fireworks displays tomorrow evening, my thoughts are that the worst of the showery and thundery weather will come right up until sundown. Sun's going down now around 8:30, and after that, maybe a bit of a diminishing of the activity. Although we may still see raindrops falling in and around parts of the tri-state area well into the evening hours. So, folks, if you're going to be going to a fireworks display tomorrow, either in New York or around the Hudson Valley or wherever you're going, you might want to carry along an umbrella just to be on the safe side. I think the odds are going to be about, 40% for getting wet tomorrow late in the day and into tomorrow evening, and then that'll diminish some after midnight. But of course, after midnight, most of the displays are over. I remember in my youth that some of the kids on the block, Joe, used to shoot off firecrackers, aerial bombs,
Oh
and,
God, yes. Oh God.
until well past midnight. My
It was
grandmother used to
it
say,
was the it was
"Aren't
the
they done
Bronx.
yet?" You know,
It was the Bronx, Joe. They would build a bonfire in the middle of a busy intersection and just set off bricks of fireworks,
right?
bricks of firecrackers and
I,
M80s and cherry bombs and all this other stuff. I never was a fan of fireworks personally.
Yeah, there was a guy down the block from where I lived. His name was Joe Magro, and Joe was always the guy who had all the fireworks. Every year, everybody was waiting to see what he had. And yeah, you just mentioned setting off a brick. Joe would a brick of firecrackers. That's what, about 80 or 100 packs. He would shoot off like a whole brick of firecrackers at one time. And yeah, you're right. The cherry bombs, the M80s, the aerial bombs, the whistling cyclone, that kind of stuff, or the rockets. One year you had like usually you have bottle rockets or maybe a couple of rockets, sky rockets go up like they have 2 pound rockets or 1 pound rockets, and here Joe comes out with like an 8 pound rocket, and
Well,
one
in New York, just in case folks that don't know this, but in New York, fireworks are illegal.
correct. Correct. People will go out of state to get this stuff. And I remember one year, one of these big rockets, he had the stick that you would put in a pipe or a bottle or something. The stick
Yeah.
broke, and so what did he do? He said, "Well, let's see what happens if we put it on the ground and shoot it off. Let's see how far it goes." And the darn thing went up the block halfway, and then kind of suddenly did like a spiral and a loop de loop, and came back toward us. Like, ah! This is why I agree with you. I was never a big fan of these fireworks. I like watching them on television or whatever, but you never know. You never know what any one of the things that these people buy. There may be a misfire, or there may be something happens, and it may cause an explosion in somebody's hand, or I just don't like them, and I don't deal with
No,
them.
I never liked them. And and
Tomorrow night
and
I'm going to be
and by
tomorrow
the
night I'm
way,
going to tomorrow night I'm going to be with there's some local people here that are going to go down to the lake, the beach, and shoot off fireworks. And I know that Renata and my son, my daughter, and even my brother-in-law is coming to see. I don't deal with that. I'm going to stay with the dog, try to calm the dog down. I'm sure JJ probably has the same problems that most dogs, and
no,
Mike,
he doesn't care.
he
He's not
doesn't.
no gunshots, thunderstorms, fireworks. He has no doesn't care at all.
Thank you, Frank Scalera, for hitting the tip jar tonight. He says, Happy 4th of July, Joe and Joe.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. And by the way, if I wanted fireworks, all I have to do is go to Walmart. It's a different it's a different way of doing things.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. Um, all right, let's go back to the satellite loop because we've got severe weather tonight, especially in Colorado, eastward into uh, Nebraska and Kansas, and even into Oklahoma. And you can see what's going on the satellite here. A lot of blowups of these clouds. There's a nice little shortwave that's moving along here. Actually, you can see the rotation in Montana and Wyoming that's setting off all these thunderstorms here. And at the moment, thanks to Tornado HQ, there were 13 severe thunderstorm warnings and one tornado warning. There were 17 a few minutes ago, but four of them just expired. Five in Colorado, two in Kansas, one in Missouri, five in Nebraska, one in Oklahoma. So that's the spread of the severe weather. We also have some thunderstorms developing in parts of southern Ohio and southern Indiana, and you can see the clouds sort of expanding there, and some downpours and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast and into Mississippi. And we'll check out the radar. You can see some showers even up into western New York and up the St. Lawrence Valley. The thunderstorms across central and southwest Ohio, southern Indiana, and Illinois. A few flash flood warnings are up in parts of southern Indiana. Also seeing some scattered flash flood warnings in southern Missouri. We've got some downpours and a couple of thunderstorms right now moving into Kansas City and back into Colorado, as I said earlier, and you can see up into Nebraska. We've got numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that are up mostly east of I-25, in the eastern part of Colorado, and also up into central Nebraska and even into South Dakota. Some scattered showers and a couple of storms extending back into Montana and Wyoming and also into southern New Mexico. Storm Prediction Center, at the moment, we've got three severe thunderstorm watches up from southwest South Dakota down into southeastern Colorado and western Nebraska. I'm sorry, western Kansas, and everybody in between. There's another area of slight risk from southern Missouri to southwest Ohio, but we don't have any watches there. And as far as tomorrow goes, we're looking at two slight risk areas: southeast Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and northern Iowa. Also, central and southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas. And those areas there in Iowa, Minnesota, and Missouri and eastern Kansas have a 2% tornado risk. Friday, into Friday night, early Saturday morning, we have a marginal risk: southeast Ohio, western West Virginia, and eastern and much of eastern and central Kentucky. Now, I don't know. I'm still kind of leaning on the idea that we'll probably see on Saturday, Joe. There could be maybe some isolated severe thunderstorms in the mix. I don't. I'm not so sure it'll be more than that.
Well, yeah, the convection certainly could be a part of all of this, part of the equation, part of the mix. And, again, if you do get into that, there could be, like tomorrow, for example, I don't expect anything severe in the New York metropolitan area, but any kind of convection that boils up or bubbles up anytime in the mid and late day hours could bring some very heavy rainfall for a relatively brief interval of time. And unfortunately, that type of activity, shower threat, could very well linger right on into the evening hours, which is why I say that if you're planning to go to any kind of a fireworks display, I know here in the Westchester, in the Lower Hudson Valley in Westchester, um, actually, I think it's tonight. I think it's happening tonight at Kensico Dam. They have a big fireworks. They're planning to have a big fireworks display. Maybe they're having it tonight is to not to conflict with the big display tomorrow night in New York City.
Oh,
Incidentally, tomorrow,
you're talking about the Stacy's display,
yeah, the Stacy's display.
Stacy's or Lacey's.
And then interestingly, this year, I don't know why they're doing it because the last several years it's been along the East River, but tomorrow they're going to have it in the Hudson. I think I've read somewhere where the Hudson offers a much wider area for them to set up barges with fireworks, and that's why they're doing it. So, and I know that they were offering free tickets for viewing areas, which went very very quickly. They're all gone now, but
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll see how things develop. And even if you don't want to go down to the city, you can always watch it on television. And I know it's not the same watching it on TV, but it's at least it's a little bit more convenient as opposed to actually going out there, putting up with the humidity, putting up with the crowds, and putting up possibly with some lingering rain and showers.
Yeah, so I'll be going. I could. Let's just lost the picture. I could go to Pixley tomorrow and watch the fireworks display there, but I'll probably just wind up going to bed early. Rainfall next 7 days. Actually, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, all these purple areas are areas of 1.5 to 2 inches from Minnesota across parts of the Great Lakes, also from Kansas and Missouri. You got these patches that continue east into Kentucky, West Virginia, eastern Pennsylvania, the Catskills, the Middle Hudson Valley. So let's just say, in general, over the next 7 days, anywhere from, say, 3/4 of an inch to possibly 1.5 inches for everybody east of the Rockies. The only exception to that is going to be um, Louisiana, particularly along the Texas coast down into South Texas, where WPC is indicating several to 6 inches of rain. And of course, a lot of that is going to really depend on what Beryl does when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's really just about these, you got this weak upper trough that's going to come through tomorrow, late in the day, that sets off some scattered showers and thunderstorms. We got the GFS view here. The thunderstorms are a bit more concentrated, South Central PA, Western and Central Maryland, into Northern Virginia. There's not a whole lot that the GFS shows over uh, New Jersey or the Hudson Valley. It's got just a couple of blips there. And you can also see the heavier weather that's back through Wisconsin and Minnesota, also in Oklahoma and Missouri. This is for tomorrow night. And then as we move on to Friday, uh, we see Friday, the GFS has got this low that goes to Wisconsin, and there's this sort of arm that runs through into the east. It seems to imply, Joe, that the thunderstorms hold off till after dark, that they'll actually occur sometime, say, between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. From eastern PA to southern New England. So there seems to be more timed with that arm that goes through. And then you've got the upper trough and cold front that sets off showers and thunderstorms late Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. And the GFS says it's mostly from central New Jersey down into eastern Georgia. So it's got more of a southern view. But I kind of think that this is definitely one of those cases that different models are going to show you different things as far as where the thunderstorm development. I think you just need to recognize where the convective risk is, and you have to include it in the forecast. Maybe when you get to Saturday, you can, make a delineation between who gets it, who doesn't. And then Sunday looks okay. And it looks like there'll be another front coming late next Tuesday with some showers and storms. And then that goes out. And then there's something else along about Thursday, some sort of frontal boundary that stalls out with a little ripple of rain and thunderstorms along the coast. So, and of course, you see the wet weather in Texas, Beryl coming in late Sunday. And then there's the second system behind it, which doesn't really develop very much with it, but it does bring an area of rain up into the coast of Texas, and it starts to push it further inland. So it kind of looks to me like we're getting a break, at least from the standpoint of the tropics, uh, after this sort of wild finish to June and July, this burst, it's probably going to be maybe quiet for a week or two.
I think beginning tomorrow, but particularly so Friday and Saturday, the humidity levels, the dew points are going to be pretty well way up there in the 60s to near 70. And Sunday and Monday, you had mentioned this, Joe, it turns out sunny, it will be drier, and it will be not quite as humid. By
Right.
normal standards, what we're looking at for Sunday and Monday still will be dew point temperatures probably in the mid and low 60s, which normally would be called muggy conditions. But when you compare them to what we are looking at for again, later tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, it will be a noticeable lowering of the humidity. Not quite enough to, call it, oh, crisp and dry like we've had recently, but it will
Right.
be lower and it will be accompanied by a spell of dry weather and sunny weather for Sunday and Monday and into the early part of Tuesday of next week. As you mentioned, the next disturbance will come our way with more showery weather. That'll be later Tuesday and on into Wednesday, and by then the humidity will be back up again. But there will be a couple of days where the humidity will lower just enough so that it will not be intolerably humid. It will be more tolerable. It's not going to be again a shot of relief, but it will be better, relatively speaking, than what we're going to be experiencing from later tomorrow, Friday, and into Saturday. That again for Sunday and on into the start of next week on Monday.
Yes. So, since we don't have Briller Jeopardy, okay, I'm trying to do it now. I hope I can pull this off. Um, but just give me a second here. Uh, I have something for you. Uh, where is it? Oh, good Lord. I just, oh, here it is. Okay, let's see if I can make this big enough. All right, I'm going to have to enlarge it. Now, I'm going to show you a picture, Joe, of an actress. And this is a picture of this actress when she was very young. Okay? Are you ready?
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to come up on my
All right.
screen.
All right. I just put it up on the screen. Do you see her?
Not yet.
All right, hold on a second. I lost my mouse. There we go. Um, you might want to give your YouTube a refresh.
Oh, okay. I see her now. Am I supposed to guess now who this is?
Yes, I want you to guess who this is.
Vivian Vance.
No.
Oh, well, Dorothy Provine.
Um, who is that?
Who?
Dorothy Provine.
Remember the TV show The Roaring Twenties? Oh, that goes way, way, way back.
Well, in reality, Joe, that is, and now if you look on your
This
screen,
is
you will see it's Mrs. Ziffel.
this is Ziffel. And that's
It's,
hard to believe.
yeah, that was a pretty radical change, wasn't it?
Oh
I
God!
saw that today. Actually, I saw it yesterday, and I meant to do it yesterday, and I thought, and then just now it popped back into my head. I said,
Mr.
I got
Croce,
to do
Mr.
this.
Croce, it's not
So
Ann
that,
B.
so
No,
that's Barbara. The actress is Barbara Pepper.
right?
That was her name, and she was actually very good friends with Lucille Ball, and she shows up on a couple of I Love Lucy episodes.
Yes,
So
but in
there's
her
a
early days, she was pretty. Wow.
yes. Um, so anyway, I just kind of thought that that was, it was an interesting, it was an interesting before and after thing.
Exactly.
Oh, good God. Anyway, so I know what your plans are not for the 4th of July. You're not going to some fireworks show. You're going to stay at home with the dog, which I admire you for. I think that's what you should do. I will not be going to. I could go to the local park here because they do a fireworks show here tomorrow night. Uh, but the thing is, everybody in the county is going to be there. So I abhor crowds. So I may just do what I normally do after uh, once we get past sundown is to make sure that, oh, you know what I could show you too? This is something. I didn't show everybody this. So um, you might have seen it already. Just give me a moment here. Uh, so let me see if I can bring the pictures up. So I got my, so there's this. Hang on. I wish I had a director. Uh, so Um, I got my statue of Saint Francis, Joe.
I saw that on Facebook. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so and the thing is, I this was before I planted some, I put some flowers around him, and I also got us one of those solar lights. So at night, he's got this bright light that shines up on him, and it actually looks really creepy from my deck because it looks like there's like some strange man standing out in the middle of the yard. And the other thing I got was, and you could appreciate this, you will appreciate this because you, um, growing up in the Bronx, will have seen this oh so many times. And hang on, let me see. I got to go back to it. Um, so this is, uh, so this is the other thing I got. It's my uh, Mary on the half shell, and there it is. There's my. It's actually a Mary on a half shell in a grotto, and that's in the other side of my yard. Now, if I were to really want to show everybody my Bronx roots, I would need to put this Mary on the back on top of an upside down bathtub, which was just what they do in the Bronx. Am I right? Am I right about this?
Yeah. Yes.
I actually forgot about the upside down bathtub.
Now, do you
That somebody
illuminate?
reminded me of it.
Now, do you want to illuminate the statue, especially on December the 8th?
For the Feast of the Immaculate Conception.
Yes.
Um, well, it that statue also has a solar light that comes on at night.
Oh,
So
okay.
it also looks somewhat creepy. I'll tell you this, when I put St. Francis up and I brought the dog out for his walk, he growled at it. He was not happy. Now he ignores it. But he growled at it, and he dragged me to it, and he smelled it, and then he was okay with it. Um, he hasn't made any comments about the Mary on the half shell though.
So, just as a reminder to everybody, we are not on tomorrow night, and Friday we're off, and Saturday we're off, but we'll be back on Sunday at 7:35 p.m. Have a
And that's Joe's way of saying good night.
excuse me?
That's your way of saying good night.
Well, I mean, we don't have anything else to add. We don't have Driller Jeopardy tonight, so
No, and I
I think
did my statues, and we did Barbara Pepper, so I think you're right. We could say good night.
yes.
All right. Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours. You join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use the coupon code,
Summer 2024,
and if you do, you will get,
10% off.
yes, indeed you will. So have a great, everybody have, seriously, everybody have a great holiday. Enjoy whatever barbecue you're going to, or hopefully if you're in someplace hot, you've got friends that have a swimming pool that have invited you, or maybe you're going to the beach. Have a great time and be safe. And we'll see you on Sunday.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye bye.